Hey
Hello and
guys,
happy Friday. How are you guys?
we're good. How about you?
Oh, all right. Survived another week, I think. A few more hours to go, but yeah, it's been a crazy one
Yeah, this is one of those where I'm happy it's Friday, but really could use some more time this week.
A lot more time.
for sure. Yeah, that's. I think I could probably squeeze another day or two in. That would help me immensely in prep for next week. But
Yeah.
we will get there one way or another. So, welcome, CJ. Good to have you join us on the show today.
Happy to be here, right on time,
Just on time.
just
Yeah.
on time.
I was glad you were able to hop on last minute there. I know without Josh today, and appreciate you filling in.
Just happy to support the community. That's what I'm here for.
Chris is like, what did I walk into and agree to do?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. So Matt, you how are your Mets doing this week?
So they've been good. Some good games, bad games. Sean Manaea is back pitching, so good news there. Francisco Alvarez looks to be back and getting some power back. So fingers crossed, things are good. Was unfortunately watching some of that Yankees game the other day against the Blue Jays with the error capades. That was a little interesting. I need them to come through this week, though. They're playing the Phillies, so let's go Yankees. How about the Cubs? How are they looking?
It was a rough week for us. We fell a game down in the standings, and Kansas City is kicking our butt this week. 2 out of the 3 games, but we got Crosstown Classic finishes up this weekend with against the White Sox. So hopefully we can. I think that should be a confidence booster for
Let's
us.
hope so, right? It's one of those matchups that's so lopsided that you can almost like get in your head as a player. Like, yeah, I guess you could lose one of them because that's baseball season. But other than that, oof.
Yeah, well, that's you almost feel bad for the White Sox at this point,
Almost.
That feels like a normal thing to say, though.
Almost.
Like it's just kind of always that way.
Very much so. Oh, so when is everyone? We're all going to be heading next week to Nashville. When's everyone getting in? Sunday or
Sunday.
On
I
Sunday,
forget exactly
yeah.
what time. Midday, I think.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday? Awesome. Well, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but let's dive into some news stories here. Matt, you want to kick us off?
Happy to. So this is a story. Scattered Spider calling help desk to get attack targets credentials reset. So there's a little bit to talk about on the actual thing, but I think this is a bigger conversation around. Yeah, there's a specific attack, and you should be aware of it. But what in general is the approach to this, right? Because it's not just Scattered Spider; it could be any threat actor. It could be somebody, an individual calling, impersonating clients, and I think there's warrants a discussion about how you handle that. What are your processes for verifying clients to ensure this type of thing doesn't happen? What do you guys do?
Nothing.
Well, isn't this the same attack vector that got
Yeah.
MGM what, a year or 2 ago?
It is. And did you also see? There's another one. It's the. I'm totally drawing a blank on the company. I just saw it today. They are suing the IT service provider for the exact same
Yeah.
thing. $380 million. Oh, Clorox is suing their
Clorox,
MSP.
yeah.
Yeah, 380 million. I'm like, man, what? That's a great number to settle on. I think is 380 million. It's not too big. But to your point about what are people doing? I'm seeing 2 things happen. One is the issuing of, I'll call it a random number. Like essentially the help desk person says, I'm going to send you a text to the phone number I have on file, and I want you to confirm the number that I've sent. That's probably the poor man's way, or very low key, and I think it's got some potential risks there. But the other one I've seen, I'm trying to think of who the vendor was, but basically they're kind of new in the space, and they're definitely giving some other vendors in the PAM space a run for their money. The just-in-time type players, where it's an actual, they get an actual code or token sent to them that is unique to the user on file, and it's not some random, we're not just sending it to an SMS, although those were some of the options. But it's a pretty sophisticated approach to ensuring that you are talking to who you're supposed to be talking to on the other end.
Yeah, we have a vendor that we partnered with that pushes or allows us to push a code to an end user to verify their identity. But I mean, there are other avenues through the same type of attack vector where you get into like the MFA fatigue, where someone could potentially still falsify or socially engineer their way through this. So I think it's an interesting and probably growing problem. I'm sure we're going to see some deep fake audio and things of that nature start creeping into this as well.
Are you guys seeing anything in the other direction, like a way for the client to verify it's actually you calling?
Other than we move their mouse? No. So the biggest thing is when we set up a remote session with the client, it gives them a pop-up to authorize our technician in order to remote in. We just prefer to have that in place as validation control. Had heard some horror stories about someone getting into remote control software, threat actor that got into it and just wreaked havoc before people understood what was truly happening. And so just having a little barrier there, at least, even if it's a timeout period of, hey, after 15 minutes, if they don't respond to approve it, that then you can still take your administrative action. But enough to slow down a threat actor that would get in there and provide some type of barrier.
Yeah.
Can't believe we're having this conversation. Remember the good old days?
Define good.
Well, I remember the days when from an MSP perspective, we weren't the popular crowd, right? Like if someone can afford MSP services was actually quite impressive on its very as a default. And then you think about the tools and resources that MSPs were kind of in sort of the exclusive world of, oh yeah, we have tools and we can automate and we can remote in and we can do things that don't rely on the traditional Microsoft remote desktop model. And that was game changer 10 plus years ago. And now we're talking about things like, please identify yourself. You're like, I'm your MSP. No, like I need more information than that.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Well, and I think we're also seeing some evolution here where you're starting to see some MSPs build out agentic solutions where it's no longer waiting for something to go wrong. It is truly much more proactive. It's looking at scenarios where I know in some of the conversations that we've had, it's looking for characteristics that maybe imply that there's an issue and trying to solve those before a help desk ticket ever needs to be created. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of progresses over time, but it's kind of supersedes then these issues of the social engineering and remote access.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move into our next one here. What level tech should be doing this? So we have a client that made a bit of a mess out of their SharePoint. They had M365 already prior to our taking them on, and the owner of the company was the global admin. What could go wrong? They created numerous SharePoint sites, etc., and got confused about which document library has which documents, and they asked us to help clean it up. Great, no problem. We went over it with them. They have very clear instructions. However, what level tech should be doing this? Is this a level 1 job or a level 2 job?
There's a lot to unpack here. Like, there's more than I thought there would be when I saw this story. I have two immediate responses that I'll just tee up for potential discussion here. One is, should you even be doing this kind of work in the first place? Like, in some ways, this is operational type, doing the business's work. The other thing is, if you decide the answer to that question is yes, this screams like scoped project to me. If you decide you're even going to go down this road.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think we would as a project for sure.
Can we define what level 1 and 2 is first? Let's start with that. Does that even matter? Like, is that even relevant in this particular scenario? I mean, you can Google how to do some of the pieces of this equation without a whole lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, no, this is more someone sitting down and being the adult in the room, talking with the client about what needs to go where, I think.
Yeah.
So with that regards, I don't think this is a level 1 or even potentially a level 2. We're talking about people that are more of the engineer. I think about this from a business mindset, like what Matt mentioned, is what are the risks that are associated with where our data lives? What types of data are we dealing with? Have they even defined what kind of data can live in what SharePoint directory? Because once permissions are set up, it gets really complicated to change those permissions after they've been built.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and this would be a great opportunity for this MSP to go through and do a data classification project with the client, get them AI ready. I think obviously there's a lot of creep here as far as both in data flow. So yeah, getting a plan together, classifying it while you're going through with someone. But again, yeah, I wouldn't probably put a very expensive level 2 person on it for something that is legitimately just sitting down with the client and having a conversation about each file.
Well, what about just even turning on something like DLP and just seeing how it's being used? Like, are there things that Microsoft might just go, I have classified that in the following category because, well, we see this all the time, and you definitely don't want that going into that folder. Like, this just seems like this problem has nothing to do with SharePoint. SharePoint is going to be potentially the business outcome of where data is going to ultimately get restructured and live appropriately if this is done right. But this is not a SharePoint problem.
What do you guys think led to this question? Do you think it's someone who was asked to do this and is asking, like, should I be doing this as a level 2? Do you think it's a owner service manager who like just doesn't know what to do with this request? Like, were there any more details in the comments?
Or was the level 1 that felt it was too complex and wants more money?
Yeah. I didn't see all the comments in this one, but I'm kind of curious at what the perspective was.
Let's see here.
The comments help. The understanding part, I think, is where this becomes bigger than a level 1 and possibly level 2 role. Again, this is a governance problem for that company, and I, as a evangelist for the trust mark, one of the things that's very common is doing governance isn't easy. In fact, or one could say in some cases is somewhat tedious or mundane. No one wants to play around in process and procedure, or even have an organization understand the why behind not putting things in certain places. There's a comment and it mentions, like, this is a business consultative discussion that needs to happen. And generally speaking, you don't see a ton of engineers really good at that. So, but to your point, Matt, at the beginning of this, it's like, why does this seem like it should be something super simple to address? Like this is almost like a yes no question, and instead it's like, well, as the great Aristotle said, like that's the kind of it's a philosophical conversation, and not everybody can do that.
Yeah. I pulled up the comments to this. They're
Well,
actually some good ones.
Looked like there was a lot of kind of rehashing what we were saying as far as, it doesn't really matter what the job title is, as much as the skill set and scope of the project, and people commenting that this absolutely should be a project.
Shout out to the guy who said, wait, are there SharePoints out there that aren't a mess?
Right. Right, but the one right above that does talk about this being a client's problem, not the MSP's problem. Like, hey, we can set the structure up for you, but no matter how we spend this, we really can't take on the accountability for where you should put this data. It's not our data, it's your data.
Yeah.
Can't make this decision for them.
Well,
yeah.
It's like the MSP is not going to know what the trade secrets are that are in some of that. So
do you want them looking for them either?
Yeah. Right. Yep. So I think the solution on this is not a question of level 1, level 2. This is going over to the project team, and it's not going to really require anyone of super technical, I don't think.
Well, and wash your hands. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, wash your hands of the data part of this, right? Like the MSP should not be trying to help the client understand which data types their data falls into, because that is not their business.
We do give some basic guidance and talk about like TLP and stuff like that with clients, but yeah, it's very much, here are the buckets.
Yeah.
Go figure out what needs to go in which bucket.
You be the Jerry on that one, right?
Yeah.
Somebody wrote, yikes, this is asking a stranger to organize your sock and underwear drawer for you. So that kind of sums it up.
My socks don't match.
All right. Well, let's hop into our next one here about putty.
I feel like we've done this to death.
All right. So putty downloads, again, the target of SEO poisoning efforts and updated compromised installers. Been another jump in the compromised installations downloaded from the top 3 choices. So basically, when you search for help on a particular item or for an installer, the attack vector here is that someone can either through paid or unpaid ways work their way into the top results and have that go to a compromised installation. So they're seeing this happen a lot with putty, commenting that some vendors have put out notices about anything on this specifically. Is this something you guys think a vendor such as putty should be putting out a notice on, or is this a general education thing for end users?
I think both. Like if there's some, if putty, and there, maybe it's a weird example because it's kind of somebody's personal project. It's not even really a vendor. But if they are aware of something specific, it might be worth a notice. But this is happening with like all sorts of freeware tools, right? Advanced IP Scanner was a target for quite a long time, as an example. I think this actually gets into a bigger conversation of, do you even want your techs like doing this, right? Or should we be using a mechanism to provide them with the trusted binaries to run in some automated way? Something as simple as, just to use an example, like the toolbox and Screen Connect, but like all remote tools have equivalents. Should they be using something like that? Or are there cases where, it's okay to go download some binary from a website if you need it.
I mean, I think this is a
Yeah.
Oh,
So
sorry.
in general, I would say, we have a security solution in place that has a catalog of approved software that techs can get stuff from. And basically, if they need to download a new version of it, then it has to go through and get checked, and they have to request that before it can be installed. But there is a centralized catalog for them to either install updates or install new software from, just so that we're ensuring that we've got good change control on those machines for our clients. But again, this is how much responsibility goes back to the search engine as well.
Yeah.
I mean, hear a lot of horror stories too of people that, hey, I was just trying to download an update for my print driver, and suddenly, some guy's controlling my computer from India. And at some point, it feels like there's some responsibility for search engines to do a bit more to see who they're taking money from in exchange for that SEO.
There's like 3 problems here, and Putty's not one of them. Like, Putty is the example in this equation, right? Putty is just an example. I remember back in 2018 dealing with CCleaner, and it was a man-in-the-middle injection. So you could go to the website and download a legitimate app, and the installer had code that was compiled, so it was hidden, and it didn't show up until the application was installed, which was it's looking for specific domains, Active Directory domains, and if you weren't one of those domains, well, then it was a benign attack. So man-in-the-middle attack is a tough one, right? Because it's been injected into the installer. So even if it's coming from a legitimate site, that's a difficult one to solve for. But to your point, Henry, and that's the second problem is the search engine. But like, this is a perfect case where you would want some sort of like, why are we not using like a DNS routing through a DNS scanner, right? Where it's identifying whether or not it's clean. And then that third one that you described with regards to, search engines and advertising, like you see this come up more often than not around tax time, right? I need to respond to H&R Block or fill in the blank. They do a Google search. They click on the first link that shows up. It happens to be a sponsored ad. And boom, they get the pop-up screen that says, call this number so Microsoft can clean your machine, or whoever they happen to represent. Sometimes they're even legitimate. Like, they are a legitimate company that's going to get on your machine, collect the $95, and go on their way, having never done anything more than collect $95 from you, because it's a really good game of just keeping ahead of, and I'm getting paid well, so why screw up a good thing? I promise I don't use my work computer.
Now we know what CJ does.
I don't use my work computer for that. But what's interesting about that particular scenario is if you look at the way a lot of ad models work within search engines, is it's, you have A, this is the destination that they're going to go to for whatever it is. And then you have B, the ad collector, right? It's tracking where they're going, so you know who it is. It's collecting information about them. And then the third step is to get it to the destination. Well, when you build those out, all it really cares about is whether or not the URL you want them to land on at the end matches the name you're using. So what happens in between is not tracked or scanned or verified. So once they click on the link, the train route or the pathway that they use to get them there, that's not tracked. So it can be malicious, and you have no way of knowing until you click on that ad link, which is why I think from a consumer standpoint, it goes back to, we need to do a better job of educating users that when you do search using a search engine in a browser, that don't click on the ad link. Make sure you're looking and saying, oh, that says sponsored. So scroll down until you find the company website that actually matches the real domain for the company you want to go and visit.
You guys ever deploy ad block plugins to your managed browsers? We did that for a while, and it got a little hard to manage and stopped.
We do DNS filtering, but not ad block. We recommend it and educate on it to our end users. So if they want to use it, they can. But yeah, we run into issues with mainly financial institutions where ad block does something funky with their outdated, antiquated websites, and
Yeah.
Runs best in
then
Internet
it
Explorer.
becomes an issue. Yeah, yeah, best MFA ever is on your financial institution. But then it ends up creating more noise because people don't necessarily know that they've got ad block installed, and why isn't this website working the way it's supposed to?
Yeah.
And then it's your fault for doing that. So if we can, we just try and educate the end users that ad blocks exist, and you're welcome to use it. Let's talk about how to use it.
That makes me nervous all the way around. I spent way too much time in the school district space, and ad blockers that are built into the browser, that's one thing. But ad blockers that are extensions, a lot of them are, while they may be blocking some ads, what they're really doing is routing your traffic through their servers. And most of them are free, which we know free is anything but. So you're paying through maybe another form of currency than actual cash, but you're paying through probably your data. And I've found more often than not, it was more about giving someone access to things that they probably shouldn't have than it was at actually doing real ad blocking.
Yeah. Definitely
Yeah.
see that.
No, there's a lot to be said too for how many times have those extensions, whether it's ad block or something else for a browser, they end up getting compromised
Sure.
Oh,
themselves, and then yeah. So there are solutions out there for doing it, but yeah, it's another layer of management then. All right. Have we
We're just
beaten that up?
blowing
It's
through
not Putty's
these.
fault. It's not Putty's fault. Do better. All right. Applications and account management. MSP's lines of responsibility, ? I'm wondering how other MSPs are navigating the management and specifically the contractual obligations around managing customer software and user creation, removal, and permissions. For example, we have many customers in the finance and insurance vertical. They have multiple software vendors for the critical line of business software. Most operate under the understanding that the MSP is responsible for their M365 Entra and Active Directory authentication, and their internal line of business software and permissions is an internal operational process for their team. We have recently been asked by a few organizations to manage these applications for them. My concern is if it isn't SSO or tied to Entra AD, there isn't a clear line of responsibility. If something goes wrong, licensing and agreements surrounding those applications would then fall on us, the MSP, and a slew of other potential legal implications. Question is, how do you define this? Is it part of your service agreement? Is there a end user software engagement clause? Are there any clear exclusions in your service agreement around this? And how do you define that list without software changing continually? Whew.
They're just looking for free
man.
help here.
All right. Who wants to tackle this one first?
I can take a swing at it, and you guys may have different perspectives on it. There was a time when I would do some of this, like the client's line of business application, and depending on the client, I would sometimes do too much of it, I think. So we would, if possible, help them with the administration of the line of business app. But I tried to limit it to things like creating users and not do anything like setting permissions to business functions or areas of the software or any of that stuff. Just help them track their licensing and user accounts. Depending on the application, though, even that became difficult, right? Think of some applications where you need very privileged access to do so, right? Like the old Peachtree and Sage kind of stuff, right? Where you need to be like in the accounting software to like create a user for them. And depending on the accounting software, right? Sometimes you have to be like everybody else, close out of the software to do anything. As we got bigger and more mature, though, we did a lot less of this. And the agreement kind of was, if it was something that from an like if there was a way to give us access to it administer without having like functional access to the application, there were a few that had like separate admin apps or admin portals or things like that, then we would make the user, if they could clearly say what permissions they needed. Other than that, though, we tried to define an application owner for each application and make that part of the user setup process. And the application owner, I mean, being someone on the client side who owns it, that person became responsible for doing all the application administrative stuff. So for me, it really ended up being applications that were structured well enough to have a separate administrative console function thing. Then we might do it, but we really tried to leave that in the hands of the client side application owner for the most part.
I don't disagree. I for this particular post, I would say, what does your agreement say? Because it should be defined there. For us, yeah, we're going to help with some of the basic administration for the line of business, but we're also going to ensure that you have some type of support from your vendor in place for that line of business, and we're going to hand off to them anything that is beyond that basic administration. We work with a few different EMR solutions and obviously different financial accounting packages and so forth. And while certainly we could support a lot of the basic functions in most of those, it's just going to be better for everyone around if it's very clear, defined that the vendor that actually wrote the software is providing that support.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of lean into. Is this is I think the only two areas that, as a solution provider in the equation, is helping manage their inventory. We know who the vendor is. We know that the users are being tracked. Your responsibility on an app that you don't have control over would not be, who has privileged or doesn't have privileged access. That's really between them and the vendor. And I think that's the second part is, clearly identifying a responsibility matrix between how, as the MSP, you function in the equation to help your client, while at the same time putting the burden on delivery with the vendor on those apps that you probably shouldn't be managing, to your point.
Yeah, this is a great instance where having some type of matrix defined for your SRM or RACI chart around those responsibilities would behoove this MSP to have in place.
Yeah.
And I would argue that this is why are they not talking to their attorney? Like, the language in here has a lot of questions around, okay, first and foremost, I have consulted with my attorney about some of the language that should or shouldn't show up in my managed services agreement, my disclaimers with my clients, and so on and so forth. This seems like they're trying to get answers or help without spending any money. And I think that's concerning in and of itself, because this is of the nature that can close the doors for an MSP, right? If this isn't handled with the white glove approach, this could close your doors if something happens.
Yeah.
All right, we got that one solved.
The world's problems are solved. We're just knocking them out.
All right, kicking butt today. It's because we've got Chris.
Yeah,
sure.
CJ's. Oh, there
right,
it is.
Chris,
There's
you
the
kind of
story.
teased this one earlier. You want to take this one?
As far as reading goes, I was shocked that there weren't more pictures, so I didn't read the whole article. But the short version, of this is Clorox got ransomed a couple of years ago, right? They're suing their help desk provider, and they're saying it was due to Cognizant's overzealous resetting passwords and MFA tokens without verifying the identity of the caller. So due to the small size, is this a serious issue for those listening? Probably not. But when you cross the threshold and you have multiple texts, the risk for this type of thing goes up. I think in this case, there's a lot of thought that comes to mind that we talked about on the first article with regards to how do you verify who's calling in. But throwing this out there, this is becoming one of the biggest problems MSPs are going to deal with over the next, forever.
Yeah, I mean, as like a lot of MSPs now are bigger than they used to be, and I'm thinking when you're small and you have 25 clients, right, that are just kind of starting out in a couple of techs, you're in that stage where you kind of know everyone by voice and can do verification just by listening to them talk and matter. Like forgetting about the ability for AI deepfakes of that, right? That we can talk about that in a second, but there comes a point where that type of relationship stuff isn't enough anymore, and you see with all the mergers and acquisitions going on, there are a lot of like nationwide MSPs and help desks now, right? You could be sitting in Kansas taking a call for a client in Utah or New Mexico or something, and there's no way you're going to have any idea who that is. I think it's more of an issue than it used to be, just because of the consolidation that's happened in the industry. And to your point, Chris, this is a big deal, not just from the threat actor perspective, like becoming more prevalent, just because the scale of these organizations is such that you don't even know everyone in your own company anymore, let alone all of your clients.
Sure.
Yeah, and it again gets back to the credential or MFA fatigue issue. I think a lot of this is going to fall back on software vendors to improve their actually offering SSO and providing some type of built-in validation verification process. I think we'll start seeing more of that happen as opposed to third-party bolt-on solutions. Because I mean, even those are only going to help with M365 or select applications.
Mm-hmm.
You start getting into all of the different platforms and things that you manage as part of that landscape, and it starts to become a bit too cumbersome and to actually manage some type of validation tool across all of those. So SSO actually working with a lot of these different vendors, I think will be huge, and yeah, having some type of built-in solution. Cattle prod story, eh? Yeah. I don't know if I've got that one in the hopper right here. We don't have to throw up a graphic for it, but you guys want to touch base on it real quick if you saw the post from the MSP?
So I mean, I'm the world's biggest skeptic on this. I honestly don't even believe this really happened. This to me is like something I would generate if I wanted to get a lot of people to reshare my story and comment on it. Like, did this really happen?
Yeah, let me find. I know our internal team was talking about it. It's like, okay, well, maybe there are worse clients to take on out there. The idea of the alleged story here was that an MSP claimed that he was on the fence about firing this client because they're a large source of revenue for him. But effectively, the client used a cattle prod on them to get them to do what they wanted them to do as far as supporting a particular device. Let's see if I can.
I mean, obviously, if it's true, then yes, the fire the client and probably get the police and lawyers and such involved.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this was in your neck of the woods, CJ.
Hey, we're known for hogs and corn, not cattle. So I got no comment on that.
I don't know. I'm going on record saying I think this is a creative writing
Yeah.
exercise for someone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that gives me some new ideas on how I control our MSP this weekend.
Wow.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the stories today. What do we got coming up here as far as events in the near future? I know I'm going to be seeing both of you next week here in Nashville, or Sunday, actually.
Sunday, yeah.
Sunday, yeah.
GTIA's ChannelCon.
You should talk about that, Chris.
I think pretty much most people in the industry are going to be there, right?
Well, I mean, sure, many people in the industry, not necessarily everybody. I'm excited to see this event go from what used to be just 2 days to now really kicking off early Monday morning with the quote pre-day, and then carrying on through hosted dinners on Thursday night. So a full 4 days of content with some really amazing thought leaders in the space, sharing, and it's awesome to see when whether it's vendors or solution providers, they're sharing educational content and their ROI was the opportunity to share. And I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. There's always some really good data and insights that are shared there. And like all events, just the hallway conversations are amazing. And this particular event draws a lot of talent from across the industry. So it should be good. After that, if you are in Vegas for DEF CON, look me up. I will be poking around with a few other unsavory individuals, and then off to Denver for Exchange August. And then Matt, you're going to the land down under.
Yeah, so I'll be at IT Nation Connect in Sydney, doing a couple of presentations on security and helping out with the peer groups there that happened before the event. So I'm looking forward to that. Not looking forward to the flight quite as much. But it'll be a good time. So if you're attending, come see me.
That's what, a 20-hour flight?
17.
I don't know. It's like
it's probably longer for you.
With the time zones, you like leave and you wake up, you get there, it's 2 days later.
That's right.
Yeah, you're probably right close to that line on whether or not you should fly east or west.
Well, I'm coming from Denver though, so I have the peer groups in Denver right before that, and then going from Denver to Sydney. So I guess west.
And then since Josh isn't here, we'll plug IR Games. They will be having that take place next week.
Nice.
So make sure that you do that. That is an awesome scenario to put yourself and your team through. So if you haven't done it yet, please sign up and do that. And with that, I think that brings us to a close. And thank you guys for hopping on. We will see you guys on Sunday.
Yeah, sounds good.
Looking forward
see you soon.
it.
See you guys.
Bye.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.